Hello. Today is exactly the middle of December 2021. So I've been going through this now for almost exactly 6 months. And today I just started the first of 4 rounds. So I'm doing a series of 4. That should take me to the first week of February. And it's been a minute since I posted. Without the chemo in my life, I feel amazing. Every time my doctors check in with me or my nurses check in and they want to know, how I'm feeling, or, even my clients. And I'm always just like, fine. I feel totally fine. And if you hadn't told me that I had cancer right now, I totally wouldn't believe you. Or if I told you I had cancer, you probably wouldn't believe me. I don't look sick. I don't feel sick. I feel completely fine. And I think I've said in my videos before that I'm not entirely convinced of how much cancer is left in my body. But we're doing this last series just as a precaution and to see if things change or if they don't change. And the possibility that because they're not changing, that it's not cancer. So I've had a handful of people reach out to me today because they know that I've gone back on chemo today. And of course, I tell them how I'm doing, that I'm doing just fine, I'm doing great. I'm loopy from the pre-meds that they give me, which have become necessary. In the beginning, the chemo was really difficult, especially for like the first 2 times that I did it, which was 2 weeks apart. First one was unbelievably awful. Second one was not so bad, but still pretty bad. Now, mind you, I was dealing with a bowel obstruction at the same time, so I was dealing with that issue as well. But the one of the things that I've learned on the internet and is this sort of trick of fasting before you start chemo, and then it doesn't have to be a big fast. It can even be an 18, 20 hour, 24 hour fast before you start your chemo. And today I did eat a little something towards the end of my day, but just when I get the pre-meds and the first 2 infusions that they give me in the hospital, which take about 2 hours each, I want to be in a fasted state for those. Now, I looked into fasting originally because I had I would call it a tentative diagnosis of Crohn's. It hadn't been confirmed, but I had all of the symptoms. Crohn's symptoms are very, very similar to colon cancer symptoms and ulcerative colitis. It all falls under IBS. And so, of course, it makes sense that if you're really struggling with that kind of condition, that if you're to give your digestion some sort of break and sort of let it heal, or even let the, fasting is really good to bring the, your chemo brain today, to bring your inflammation down. It also puts your body into a rest and heal in sort of a self-protective mode. So your body switches over to autophagy at some point, which there's a ton of research, and it's kind of been a buzzword for the last year or so, about one of the major benefits of fasting. And fasting is not the only way to get into autophagy, but autophagy is being discovered as a really, really beneficial state of health state, I guess. You don't want to be in autophagy forever, but you do want to allow your body a chance to rest without food. Fasting goes back tens and thousands of years, and there's so many benefits to it. One of those benefits just happens to be that it can make the chemotherapy more effective. It also, and I don't understand this part completely, It's complex. There's lots of reputable information on the internet about it, but it will almost, being in a fasted state almost protects the healthy cells, and then also allows the chemo to target the cells that it's supposed to target. I did a ton of research. As I mentioned before, I read every book pretty much that I could get my hands on. A lot of it's research-based. A lot of it's, it's probably half research-based. And then I was always interested in people's anecdotes, although I found those to be a little less credible than like the research. The scientists who, wrote books and do these really compelling lectures on benefits of fasting. One of those is Jason Fung. He's a nephrologist in Toronto, I believe. He has a book out. I can't remember what it's called, but I have pretty much found most everything, if not everything, from Dr. Jason Fung to be brought up, or to be supported by other people that I respect in the health field. Dr. Berg is another one. He's a little more commercial, I would say, than Dr. Fung. That's just my personal opinion. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's a former chiropractor turned neuroscientist, and his lean is more towards meditation and healing. Just throwing that out there as another really, really good source. And I'll talk about that probably in another video as I go down the road. There's other names, researchers, I can't think of what their names are, but they have, like I said, really compelling lectures on the benefits of fasting, just general if you've got nothing going on, but for cancer specifically, and for several really, really good reasons. None of which I can think of right now because I'm chemo brain is a real thing. It does go away, fortunately. But yeah, right now, don't quote me. So there's that, and then I just happened to be in an appointment with my primary care physician, not the one who's treating, not the oncologist, just the family doc. And he mentioned it randomly if it was something that I would consider looking into, and I was like, yes, I'm all over it. So chemo today I think has gone really, really well. The first two that I take, like I said, they're pretty rough. I had some nausea and cramping today, and then I have some aphasia, which usually is, I could not have a conversation like this. And I'm not a well-articulate, I'm not, as you can tell, I'm not the most articulate person you're ever going to listen to on YouTube. But the fact that I can form a sentence right now, and I can tell you what day it is, and string together sentences that hopefully make sense, is a really, really good thing. It's the same chemo protocol that I had last time, only this time they're more aggressive with the pre-meds, so the things that would prevent the nausea and cramping. So they kept all that stuff in check. And then also another side effect to the protocol that I'm on is neuropathy in the fingers. And I can feel that on a scale from 1 to 100, it's like a 5 to 10. So less than a 1 on a scale from 1 to 10. See? I can do math. If that was math. Anyways, it's barely noticeable. If I didn't know it was a side effect, I probably wouldn't really notice it that much. I would just think I was a little extra sensitive today, where, my feet are a little bit extra tingly. What else? So the fasting has helped me tremendously. And as I say in every video, and hopefully, in every video, that I'm not a professional. This is just my story. These are just things that I've experimented with. It's nothing terribly extreme. But I like to put this information out there to sort of encourage you, or to encourage people who are going through what I'm going through, to get more information, that there's lots of good information out of that, and that you take from it what you will. Highly recommend Dr. Fung. I think he's just a brilliant, thoughtful, forward-thinking researcher without any conflict of interest. What else? I think that's about it. Knock on wood, if this goes the way that it does, and if the pre-meds and the fasting, and of course I've changed my diet in these last 4 months since I've had chemo. Everything that I eat, now I'm not a vegetarian, not a vegan, but I choose foods that basically just come from the anti-cancer list, with the exception of grains. But everything I eat and everything I drink, there's teas out there that have been specially brewed by people who have swear by them for decades, as using it to help their chemo. There's also people out there who have treated their cancer without chemo and surgery, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for those people. That was just not the route that I wanted to take. I wanted to do both. I wanted to, get the best benefit out of chemo that I can, and then also the best benefit out of other life changes. Meditation being right at the top of that list. I don't want to say positive thinking, because that sort of, people tune out when you say, I just think positive. And they're like, great, you're an idiot, or you just are in denial, or you're Pollyanna, or you just don't know, you're ignorant. That's not the positivity that I engage in and that I choose. And so I tend to not use that word in particular. I call it choosing an outcome. If you ever follow any of the Abraham Hicks stuff, they talk about pre-paving. So I do a lot of pre-paving for how things that I control, how my day is going to go. I keep a strong intention in my mind of how things are going to turn out and how I want them to turn out. And so I consider that a choice. I don't just choose positive thoughts versus negative thoughts. I choose positive thoughts because I want a positive outcome, not necessarily, although it's possible that some miracle is going to come down and heal me instantly, and that's it. That may happen, but a little bit too much of a pragmatist, literalist, logical, maybe sometimes a little too evidence-based to believe that could happen. Although I'm starting to let those qualities of myself go, and starting to see the magic, and starting to see the miracles, and starting to recognize coincidences and synchronicities, and watching the right people come into my life, and watching help come exactly when I need it, and letting that open me up, and letting that let me feel again. And so I think that's a big component too, is making an emotional change, and a change in how you feel about your life and how you feel about yourself, and to change the things that you feel brought you here. I may have mentioned this before, that one of the reasons I believe that the cancer, once it leaves my body, if it hasn't left already, is that the conditions that created the cancer And there's many different theories on what creates cancer, so I'm not even going to touch that. But my own personal belief is that some of the physiological conditions of my body, of things like stress, of PTSD, of, broken-hearted, shutting down, intense fear. I'm doing it again. Put that down. And, probably eating things I shouldn't have been eating, self-medicating with alcohol in the years before, but sort of using alcohol as a way to stuff those feelings. So I feel like, the conditions of my body that allowed the cancer to change, let me say that differently, to allow my own cells to change and to manifest as something different and become something different. Those circumstances don't exist in my body anymore. I, in a million ways, am not that person, and I'm interestingly still the same. I actually had someone I know who I think I told you, or I think I've mentioned before, that last 20 years of my life are pretty tough. And I'm not going to get through this while crying, so bear with me. Someone I hadn't talked to, someone who I was so close to, and this is a family member, someone who just naturally believes you and loves you, and I looked up to her and in so many ways. And we had a falling out 20 years ago, and I haven't seen her or talked to her since. She's reached out a few times, but I just couldn't respond. And neither of us can even remember what happened. But I do know that 20 years ago I did some things that I would have done before because I believed in myself, and I believed in myself because of her. And, this week, she reached out, And when she reached out to me, I realized that whatever thing we had gone through, which neither of us remembers, obviously doesn't matter. The love was still there, and actually almost more love. But that's what I'm talking about coincidences and timing and people being placed in your life for exactly the right reasons at exactly the right time. And the time when she was in my life the strongest was the time that I made some of the biggest changes in who I am. I made some really wonderful changes. And at the same time, I also made some really bad choices, relationship choices. And she was the one person who had the balls to tell me when I told her, I just started dating this guy, and I told her a little bit about what was happening. And I can still hear her clear. And I've heard this voice in my head for the last 20 years. And I told her what was happening, and she said, run. She said other things. She said, run. Not only will he never change, but it will get worse. She said, I promise you it will get worse. But I just remember her saying, run. Run from that. And I didn't. And but she was right. being stubborn and needing to go through some of the things that I needed to in order to grow up, I just would have chosen someone else just like him. At that time I didn't know what love was. I didn't know how people should treat me. I didn't know how I should treat other people in intimate relationships. That kind of thing. So one of the things that she said to me when I talked to her this time was that I was so different, but so the same. And I'm trying to think about people I know who I could say that about. And it's like, when you see the best in someone, but they don't see the best in themselves. And if you're the kind of person that always sees the best in someone, that's who you see. That's why you stay in relationships and friendships. And that's why, you want them in your life. Because you see their potential. And she saw that in me, where I didn't see it in myself. And so her telling me this, that I was different, but also the same, just let me know that there's actually more of me here now today than there was back then. And also that cancer is to blame for that. Cancer has put me in a place where my heart is open again. And when your heart opens, this love just comes into your life. Like, genuinely open. There's a difference between your heart being open because you want someone to come up and fill it, you want someone to complete you. There's this other love that's your heart is opened, sort of splits open so that love can come out of it. And when you start to feel love flowing from your heart, it makes you fearless. It makes you endlessly positive, optimistic. It makes you genuine. It makes you more of yourself. It's just such a gift. Such a gift. Well, I was going to end it, but I guess that's what I wanted to share tonight. And I hope this resonates with you. Feel free to comment below if I remember to turn the comments on. Feel free to subscribe if you have a story similar to mine. I would love to hear it. And that's it. That's all I got. I'm going to put my chemo brain to bed. And tomorrow will be a good day. All right, good night.